Hello, Philadelphia! America thanks you for crushing tyrants since 1776. We've come to the city of brotherly love to show our love for America. I heard Speaker Johnson talking about a Hate America rally, but that one already happened on January 6, 2021. That mob injured and wounded more than 140 of our police officers. So we say to Speaker Johnson, stop slandering our joyful, nonviolent democracy movement and stop projecting your shame and guilt on us. We're in Philadelphia where America was launched, where Thomas Jefferson denounced King George's long train of abuses leading to absolute tyranny. We're here in the city where we declared our independence from all the royal crimes against freedom that Jefferson itemized in the Declaration. Remember them? King George, he said, sent swarms of officers to harass our people in the streets. Sound familiar? He kept amongst us in peacetime standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He cut off our trade with all parts of the world and imposed taxes and tariffs on us without our consent. He obstructed laws for the naturalization of foreigners and refused to pass laws to encourage their migration here. He tried to make judges dependent on his political will alone. And that's why we had a revolution 250 years ago. We created a society without kings who claimed to derive their absolute power directly from God. Our founders instead set up a government that derived its power from the consent of the governed, to protect the unalienable rights of the people and to promote the general welfare. Here, that model citizen, Ben Franklin, created the post office, the lending library, public parks, and the volunteer fire department. All things that MAGA would be denouncing and defunding as woke socialism today. Franklin didn't create these institutions as temples to his own glory. A man of vision who also invented the bifocals, he built these things to instill in Philadelphia and in America a devotion to democratic freedom and progress for everyone. During his 59 years on the throne, Mad King George invented nothing, he created nothing, and he spread nothing but tyranny, fear, and war. Kings do not invent. Kings do not create. They steal and they destroy. And that's why we've got no kings here. In this city, James Madison and the framers wrote behind us the world's first democratic constitution. Their purpose was not to create a government that would enrich the president and his family, but a government that would promote the common good of all. The preamble began with those three magic words, not I the king, but we the people. We the people, the only source of all legitimate sovereign power. Our framers overthrew the king. They wrote an anti-king constitution. Article 1 put all lawmaking power in a Congress elected by the people. And Article 2 defined the job of the president as this: to take care that the laws are faithfully executed. Not thwarted, not diminished, not ravaged and rewritten, faithfully executed. The framers got rid of the kingly power to control political expression. They safeguarded the freedom of speech, the freedom of press, the freedom of assembly, and the right to petition government for a redress of grievances. The King of England was also the head of the Anglican Church, and everyone had to belong, but the framers separated church from state and guaranteed free exercise of religion, no establishment of religion, and no religious tests for public office. They banned titles of nobility. They separated the private businesses of the president from affairs of state by banning anyone in government from accepting bribes, presents, emoluments, payments, and titles from foreign kings, princes, or states. That's against the law in America. We say to President Trump, all of those of us who aspire to attain to public office are nothing but the servants of the people in America. The moment that any of us thinks that we're a king or a queen or an emperor or lord, that is the moment to evict, eject, reject, impeach, try, convict, remove, disqualify, and start all over again. All we say to President Trump is, do your job. President Trump, you are not our king, and we are not your subjects. We will never be your subjects. We don't have a supreme leader here. We have a supreme constitution here. If you don't like the laws Congress has passed, quit your job and run for Congress to try to pass different laws. But you don't get to make up your own laws, Mr. President. You don't get to trash the real ones. And this is why you've been sued more than 400 times, and you're losing overwhelmingly in district courts and in circuit courts, both among Democratic and Republican nominated judges. We concede that you have stacked and packed the Roberts Court, which must wake up out of its stupor and recall it's their duty to enforce the Constitution, not to grant the wishes of a lawless president. And so we say to the Supreme Court, do your job. And don't forget to vote to retain those Pennsylvania judges who are doing their job. Mr. President, You've been illegally firing our professional civil servants, the people who take care of our veterans, the people who track infectious diseases, the people who rescue communities hit by natural disasters, the people who protect us from financial scammers like George Santos, the second most successful con man of all time. You've been gutting programs that support K through 12 special education. You've been gutting cancer research and climate science. You just commuted George Santos's 87-month sentence, and you forgave $374,000 in restitution he still owed his victims, and now you're threatening not to pay furloughed federal workers. If anyone should not be paid their salary for the last month, it's Speaker Johnson and the Republicans in Congress who have shut down the Congress and who have fled Washington to take a month-long vacation, and they're not having any town halls because they're afraid to face their own constituents. We say to the Republicans, get back to Washington, restore the people's health care, reopen the government, rehire the workers you fired, swear in Adelita Grijalva, and do your job. Do your job. Mr. President, you're giving billions of dollars to autocrats in Argentina. You've launched a stupid trade war against Brazil to bail out your insurrectionist buddy, Bolsonaro. You're hiring January 6th insurrectionists who called on rioters to attack the police to come work at your Justice Department, and you're waging war on American communities with people who take $50,000 cash bribes in Cava takeout brown bags. Mr. President, like your Secretary of HHS, Mr. Kennedy, I'm no doctor, but your administration has a serious staph infection. You spend the public's money gold-plating your palace and building a new Marie Antoinette ballroom to entertain the CEOs and the billionaires and the oligarchs while you cut programs that feed children. You send our troops to invade our own cities so ICE agents can drag tackle, beat, tase, and terrify people in the middle of the night. You say you're pro-free speech, but you use the levers of power to shake down our universities and colleges, to control their hiring, their admissions, and their courses. You try to bar thousands of lawyers from entering federal buildings and courthouses because you don't like something one of their colleagues once said. You maneuver to get Jimmy Kimmel fired, and you try to get the NFL to fire Bad Bunny. You know, and any time public officials try to use the government to actually help our people with Social Security, or the Affordable Care Act, or Medicaid, or housing, you call them communists. But that's a weird projection, Mr. President, because your best friends and political heroes are all communists. You adore Kim Jong-un, the communist tyrant of North Korea, who said you fell in love with him and with whom you've exchanged dozens of love letters. You love President Xi, the head of the Chinese Communist Party, whom you call smart and brilliant because you say he rules his people with an iron fist, and your heartthrob idol is Vladimir Putin, the communist bureaucrat and KGB agent turned gangster capitalist and war criminal who called the dissolution of the USSR the greatest catastrophe of the 20th century. Those are your friends, Donald Trump. And like all these dictators, you want a centralized command economy where you control and you shake down the broadcast media, big tech, the universities, the businesses, and the law firms, and where you personally anoint all the winners and losers in your corporate state. You've already put more than $3 billion in your pocket since January, and you want a small group of loyal billionaire oligarchs to run our economy, and we say no way. I got a message from a 5-year-old in my district who wanted me to bring this message to Philly, to Donald Trump. Mr. Trump, you are not the boss of us. Americans are not afraid. This is the land of the free and the home of the brave. Disney realized that it had more to fear from public boycotts than from your anti-comedian shakedown. So Jimmy Kimmel is back on TV, more popular, and I think even funnier than he was before. Under our First Amendment, we've always had the right to make fun of our politicians and our presidents. We've got a First Amendment in America. The NFL knows that millions of Latino Americans are part of their audience, that Puerto Rico is part of America. And it will be a state soon. That's coming. And so the NFL is not going to go with MAGA. It's going to go with Bad Bunny and the vast majority of America. I'm sorry to break it to you, Donald, but America is just stronger than all the tyrants put together. Franklin and Jefferson and Madison, Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass, Susan Anthony, FDR, JFK, Dr. King, Rosa Parks, Cesar Chavez. They created a country that will always resist you and will outlast you. And even the people who voted for you are turning on you now. You said you'd solve inflation on day one. Did you think we'd forget about that? The price of groceries, of housing, of healthcare is through the roof. And now you want to make it even harder for people to get healthcare. You know, life expectancy in America increased by more than 30 years in the last century, from 47 years old to 77 years old. And the three major factors were vaccines, clean water and clean air, and antibiotics. And your administration is waging war on 2 out of the 3. My friends, FDR said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. So our job now is to spread the magnificent courage of these rallies to get people to remember who we are. This is the land of the free and the home of the brave. The millions of people you see protesting across America are going to be the millions of political organizers next year. My friends, all over America, young people are quoting from Nemec's manifesto in Andor, part of the Star Wars series. Here's what Nemec said. There will be times when the struggle seems impossible, alone, unsure, dwarfed by the scale of the enemy. But remember this, freedom is a pure idea, It occurs spontaneously and without instruction. And then remember this, the imperial need for control is desperate because it's so unnatural. Tyranny requires constant effort. It breaks, it leaks. Authority is brittle. Oppression is just the mask of fear. And know this, the day will come when all these moments of defiance will have flooded the banks of the empire's authority, and then there will be one too many. One single thing will break the siege. Remember this, try. And that's the spirit also of Alexei Navalny, who died fighting for freedom in Russia. And writing from one of Putin's filthy prisons, Navalny said this, we must do what the tyrants fear the most. We must tell the truth. We must spread the truth. This is the most powerful weapon against liars. Everyone has this weapon, so make use of it. Don't be afraid of anything. This is our country, he said, and it's the only one we have. The only thing that we should fear is that we will surrender our homeland without a fight to a gang of liars, thieves, and hypocrites. Alexei Navalny. My friends, a great Marylander, Frederick Douglass, said, if there's no struggle, there's no progress. And the struggle may be moral, it may be physical, it may be moral and physical, but there must be struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, and it never will. Fascism will not be the end of American democracy, my friends. American democracy will always be the end of fascism. I will leave you finally with the words of the great Tom Paine, who arrived in Philadelphia in 1774, 2 years before the American Revolution. He wrote the great pamphlet of our history, which ignited the American Revolution, Common Sense. In 1776 was a tough year. Don't kid yourself. Half the people running around saying, you can't beat the greatest empire that ever existed. You can't beat the kings and the queens and the lords. But half of the people said, let's give it a try. Let's fight for freedom and democracy. Let's pledge to each other our lives, our property, our sacred honor. But anyway, Paine wrote another pamphlet that year called The American Crisis, and I want to quote a little passage for you. I'm going to update the language pursuant to strict instructions from Nancy Pelosi, who said Paine was a feminist and he wouldn't mind so as not to offend modern sensibilities. But he said, these are the times that try men and women's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will shrink at this moment from the service of their cause and their country. But everyone that stands with us now will win the love and the favor and the affection of every man and every woman for all time. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered, but we have this saving consolation. The more difficult the struggle, the more glorious in the end will be our victory. Let's make that victory ours, Philadelphia. Thank you. Happy No King's Day.